Ohio State is one of the premier brands in college football. They have a national title in just the last few years, and basically every year they are competing for a ring. They've had numerous superstars, sent tons of players to the NFL, and have won a ton of games over their team's history. Going into 2021, things will likely not be a whole lot different, as they are coming off a national title appearance. They have reloaded at pretty much every position, and they should be able to go toe-to-toe with any team in the nation. In today's video, we are going to preview the Ohio State Buckeyes, talk about their roster, talk about their schedule, some major storylines for the season, and just talk Buckeyes football. But before we get into that, nearly 80% of you guys are not subscribed, so be sure to hit that button as I really appreciate it, and it really helps the channel out. I'm also joined by my friend Alex from the Gridiron Expert, as he has a YouTube channel that goes through football predictions and helps with sports betting, so please be sure to check out his channel and support him, as I'll leave a link down in the comments section. Now let's get started and talk about Ohio State. So first and foremost, I want to take a look at the Ohio State recruiting class and some of the guys who transferred in. They have the number 2 overall class, headlined by guys like Jack Sawyer, Emeka Egbuka, Donovan Jackson, Trayvon Henderson, and Kyle McCord. They had 22 total commits, and while they had a couple guys transfer out of the program, the most notable was Jameson Williams. Looking ahead to their quarterbacks, they have 3 good options at this point, and it's been one of the more highly anticipated quarterback battles of this offseason. The guy who was supposed to win the job is CJ Stroud, as he was a big-time recruit in his class, and as of right now should have the nod to be the next guy. Fighting for that backup spot is none other than a 4-star recruit from the same class as Stroud by the name of Jack Miller, and then true freshman Kyle McCord, who was a 5-star in the class of 2021. I expect Stroud to start and have a pretty fantastic year, while I also believe Jack Miller will enter the transfer portal. I think McCord and Stroud are both in somewhat of a weird spot, as when Quinn Ewers comes in next year, it's going to be really hard to keep him off the field, and Stroud and McCord are really going to have to prove that they are the future of this team, because Ryan Day will not be afraid to play the best player. To me, the running back and the wide receiver room are the most fascinating units on this team, as they are loaded and ready for players to emerge. At the running back spot, you're going to have guys like Steele Chambers, Marcus Crowley, Mayan Williams, Trayvon Henderson, and Master Teague, all fighting for reps. As of right now, and according to my research, it seems like Master Teague and Trayvon Henderson are the 2 guys that most people expect to play the most, but Mayan Williams, Marcus Crowley, and Steele Chambers all have some experience, were highly recruited out of high school, and I would not doubt that they all get a chance to see the field. I made a video in the past about this wide receiver room, but this could be the best wide receiver room in college football history, as they are absolutely loaded from top to bottom. The first 2 guys that we need to talk about are obviously Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, as Chris Olave is considered the best returning wide receiver in the country according to many sources, and Garrett Wilson is a projected first-round pick. Julian Fleming was a 5-star at one point in his class. Cameron Babb was also highly recruited, and they have some other really fun players. Jackson Smith-Njigba made a circus catch last year and was a 5-star in the class of 2020. Emeka Egbuka was the top wide receiver recruit in the class of 2021. And then you have the legendary Marvin Harrison Jr. and Jaden Ballard, who is also a 4-star. As of right now, I expect Olave and Wilson to really carry this team, but any of those other guys could step up, and I think a lot of them will show a glimpse of the future. At the tight end spot, you're going to have senior Jeremy Ruckert, with his backup likely being Cade Stover. On the offensive line, we're going to start out with the center position, as it'll be Luke Whippler. At left guard, you're going to have Harry Miller, with his backup being Josh Fryer. At left tackle, you're going to have Thayer Munford and his backup DeJuan Jones. At right guard, you're likely going to have Paris Johnson Jr. with his backup 5-star freshman Donovan Jackson. And finally, at right tackle, you're going to likely have Nicholas Petit-Ferrer, who I think is going to be a really talented player. On the defensive side of the ball, let's first start with the D-line. Starters will be Tyreek Smith, Zach Harrison, Haskell Garrett, and Teron Vincent. The backups who will play a role are Javonte Jean-Baptiste, Jerron Cage, Antoine Jackson, and the highly anticipated freshman Jack Sawyer, who I think can end up starting at some point this year. At the linebacker spots, you have Taraja Mitchell, Dallas Grant, and Craig Young as the more than likely starters, with backups Ronnie Hickman, Kayvon Pope, and Tommy Eichenberg. A lot of these guys are pretty inexperienced, and I'm excited to see how this all pans out there. The secondary is decent, as they are anchored by a superstar in Sevyn Banks, who has been projected to be the number 1 overall pick according to some mock drafts. Then guys like Cameron Brown, Josh Proctor, and Marcus Williamson are the projected starters as of right now. And then guys like Ja'Kalen Johnson, Ryan Watts, Bryson Shaw, and Lathan Ransom are all listed as potential backups. I am not an Ohio State fan, and I do not know the nitty-gritty of this team, so I did my best to research and figure out who is where. So if I made a mistake, feel free to correct me, let me know another player I didn't mention, and also anything that you disagree with. Now I'm going to kick it over to my friend from the Gridiron Expert, and he's going to give his analysis on this year's schedule and team.
When you look at Ohio State's schedule, it's evident that the season will be made in two places. The Week 2 matchup against Oregon and the Week 8 matchup at Indiana. Overall, for a team that's going through a lot of changes after making the national championship last year, this is a pretty favorable schedule, and the Buckeyes are going to be the Big Ten favorite until proven otherwise. They open up the season at Minnesota on a Thursday night. This is a game that a lot of people have pegged as a trap game. A lot of people think that the Golden Gophers could shock the nation and upset Ohio State in the first game of the season. I don't think that's going to happen. Minnesota returns a lot of starters offensively, but their defense is still a little suspect, and Ohio State, especially with that rushing attack, should be able to exploit the Golden Gophers. They get Oregon in Week 2, as we mentioned, one of the biggest marquee matchups of this 2021 season, potential top 10 matchup in Week 2. But the Buckeyes benefit from getting this game in Columbus. The Horseshoe, one of the most difficult places to play in the country, should be able to be enough to take down the Ducks here. Obviously, they're going to be doing a lot of great things over in Eugene with Joe Moorhead and Anthony Brown running that offense. But expect Ohio State's defense to step up just enough, and whoever's under center at quarterback for the Buckeyes to do just enough against this Oregon secondary. They'll take care of Tulsa, they'll take care of Akron, so they should be 4-0 coming out of September. Then they get into the bulk of Big Ten conference play, and they open against Rutgers. They only beat Rutgers 49-27 last year, so 22-point victory. And a lot of people will say, well, Rutgers put up a lot of points because of some crazy gadget plays that Greg Schiano came up with. And that's absolutely true. And you can expect, I would say, another 20 to 27 more points from Rutgers in 2021. This team's going places with Schiano and Piscataway. But the Scarlet Knights are still not to the point of contending with some of the Big Ten elite. That obviously includes Ohio State. Buckeyes should go on the road and win that one. And they should take down Maryland as well. Obviously, a few years ago, we saw the Terrapins nearly give Ohio State, or really did give them a scare, in Maryland. But now the game is in Columbus. And Maryland, while their offense should be thriving with Mike Locksley, Talia Tungavailoa, and all of its pass catchers returning, the defense, kind of similar to Minnesota, is our major area of concern for the Terrapins. Games in Columbus right before a bye. Ohio State take care of business, 6-0 going into their bye week. The game at Indiana is the one that very well could determine the Big Ten East. Obviously, that's going to depend on how Indiana fares over the course of the season up until this point, up until Week 8. But last year in Columbus, Ohio State led by 28 points at one point in time. Indiana battled all the way back, had a chance to tie it at the end, and only fell 42-35. This is one of the biggest games in Indiana football history, and they're hosting this game in Bloomington. But I really do believe this bye week for Ohio State, the bye week in Week 7, is going to provide and be so crucial for the Buckeyes. It's going to be so big, something that Indiana is not going to get to benefit from. The talent is there for Tom Allen and the Hoosiers. They have home field advantage. They have the quarterback in Michael Penix if he can stay healthy. And they certainly have the defense despite the loss of their defensive coordinator in Kane Womack. But Ohio State simply, again, is just too much. Indiana's given them scares in the past, but I can't pick against the Buckeyes in a game like this until they actually lose one. Ohio State takes down Indiana, and they take down Penn State to round out October. If the game were in Happy Valley for a potential whiteout game, that could change our analysis a little bit. It could even change our pick. But Penn State, while they will improve after a disappointing 2020, still has a lot of work to do. They still need to find some better offensive consistency despite returning Sean Clifford and Noah Cain and Jahan Dotson. But the game being in Columbus, Ohio State big off a win at Indiana should be able to take down Penn State. They then travel to Nebraska. They beat the Cornhuskers 52-17 last year. And I think we can expect a similar result now in 2021. Nebraska's in a make-or-break year for Scott Frost. He needs to get them to the postseason, but one of those 6 wins he needs is not going to come against Ohio State, even with the game being in Lincoln. Ohio State will then beat Purdue, and they will then beat Michigan State as well. And we don't mean to brush over Purdue a little bit here. The defense still needs a lot of work, though, and the offense, while it does have talent with David Bell and whoever's under center at quarterback, Jack Plummer or Aiden O'Connell, still I don't think it's going to have enough to match Ohio State step for step. The same can be said for Michigan State. a team that will improve drastically under Mel Tucker in his second year in East Lansing. Not enough to come into Columbus and win. Ohio State rounds out the year with the game against Michigan, what always seems like a must-win for Jim Harbaugh, a game that he has actually never won, a must-win that never goes his way. And you look at history, guys. Ohio State has won 8 straight against Michigan. Only 3 of those 8 have been decided by 1 possession. Michigan has only defeated Ohio State 3 times since the year 2000. That's not going to change in 2021. Even with the game being in Ann Arbor, Ohio State wins big over the Wolverines, just like they have under the Urban Meyer days, under Ryan Day. Ohio State completes an undefeated regular season for the 2nd year in a row. They will make the Big Ten championship and will once again be just 1 win away from making yet another college football playoff, looking to get revenge and redeem themselves from that national championship loss a year ago.
Overall, Ohio State should get to the Big Ten championship, where they will likely face Wisconsin, and then they'll clinch their spot in the 4-team bracket. And then from there, it would depend on the matchup, but if they were to play Oklahoma or Alabama, I do not see them winning that game. What do you guys think, though? If you're an Ohio State fan, give me your thoughts on today's video, today's analysis, and your thoughts on this year's team. And be sure to check out the Gridiron Expert. Hit that like button if you want to support today's video, subscribe to both my channel and Alex's channel, and check out all my other videos on the end screen, including my preview for the 2021 Georgia season. I hope to see you guys again soon, but until next time, peace.